Hi everyone and welcome to this Green Gown Awards Exchange webinar. We'll get started now. The title of this exchange webinar is Building Student Muscle and it will last approximately an hour. Thank you all for registering and thanks also to our presenters today who are Sarah Roberts and Sandra Lee from the University of Leicester's Environment Team and Alex Mitchell and Daniel Schofield from the University of Leicester Student Union. My name is Nina and I am the Events and Communications Officer here at the EAUC. We've just got a little bit of housekeeping to go over before I hand over to the University of Leicester team. So I'm hoping everyone can hear me okay. For the time being, I've placed all of your microphones on mute and that's just to keep the background noise to a minimum as I know we're still waiting for a few people to log in. You will have the opportunity at the end of the webinar to ask questions and contribute to the discussion, so please feel free to take your microphones off mute when you wish to speak, and you can do this by clicking the microphone button to the right-hand side of your name at the top right of the screen. If you don't have a working microphone, please type any questions or comments into the chat box, which can be found in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you have any technical issues during the webinar, please let me know by posting in this chat box, or if you're having problems within WebEx, please feel free to send me an email using the email address I contacted you on earlier. This webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded as a resource onto the Sustainability Exchange with all presentations later on today. And after today's webinar, you will be sent a short survey so that we can gain your feedback. Okay, that's everything from me for now, so thanks again, and I will hand over to Sarah from the University of Leicester now so that we can get things started.
Okay, hopefully everyone can hear me. Okay, thank you. Hello everyone, and welcome to our first combined University of Leicester Environment Team and Student Union webinar. You may have seen our last talk that we did last year on engaging online audiences. So if you did, welcome back. If not, you're in for a real treat with tons of puns and plenty of tips. Our hot topic for 2016 is all about building student muscle, and by this we mean feeding our students the right skills and knowledge so that they have the energy and the know-how to bring about their own change. Though we sound like an all-surface cleanser spray, and it's massively cliche when we say let them do the hard work, the student voice is a lot more persuadable to the people higher up than ours, so it should be our job to make sure it gets heard and acted upon. Now, we all know how important volunteering is to get students involved and interested, so that's not our main point for today. Instead, we're focusing on two things, and that's projects and politics, and we think we might be onto something. So, there are four of us presenting today. So we'll just go around the room and introduce ourselves before getting started. My name is Sarah Roberts and I'm Sustainable Projects Officer. I've been here for 2 years.
Hi, I'm Sandra. I've been here 7 years. I've probably met most of you at the AEC conferences over the years.
Hello everyone, my name is Alex Mitchell. I was the Engagement Officer within the Students' Union last year and I got re-elected to be the Education Officer for this academic year.
Hello everybody, my name is Dan Schofield. I'm the new Activities Officer in the Students' Union. Last year I was the President of the Environmental Action Society and the year before I helped to set it up.
Great. Okay, thank you. Nice picture, Alex.
Thanks.
So, to get our webinar going, we'll be taking a bite from our Leicester-grown apples. We're sharpening student skills and sweetening the deal by providing fantastic opportunities as part of our applied learning in sustainability strategy. Everyone needs their vitamin V, but what do you do once you've set up a successful volunteering scheme? We're going to talk a little bit about how we moved on to create a vibrant society that is now going into its third year. Muscles function as a pair and they need to be looked after or they'll seize up and make it much harder to get things done. It's the same with relationships and we've tried to make sure our one with the SU is the best it can be. And with all that work you can't forget to build your mass to stay strong, and we've created a unique political body called the Student Sustainability Working Group to represent the student voice. Sometimes you've just got to let it go, I mean let them grow. And this means giving students increased responsibilities and trusting them to lead on a project of their interest. This is our seed fund, our Sustainable Enterprise and Environmental Development, and we'll be talking about how we set one up, along with the impacts and benefits it can have. Finally, we'll leave you with some top tips and answer any questions you might have. Okay. So here's a quick question before we get started. What clever taglines, titles or names have you come up with that you're proud of? As you can see, we like our acronyms. So what's your approach when trying to catch attention? Also, for a bit of fun, see if you can count the number of times Dan's face appears. You've seen him once already, and we'll send one of our environment team tea towels to anyone who gets it right at the end of the webinar. Just a note, we don't count the same picture twice. So, moving on. Students represent the fruit of our labours, and our focus, I suppose, is nourishing them to work to their full potential, which is why we created apples. We're quite proud of this name. This was the product of both myself and Sandra trying to work on a train commute and texting each other on intermittent signal. Last year's webinar had a bird theme, so this year it's exercise and healthy living. So our aim at Leicester is to create green graduates, global citizens with an understanding of many complex issues and the creativity, I suppose, to think outside the box in order to solve modern problems. And to do this, we need to give our students the right tools. So we've given them a bit of a pep talk. It's politics, education, and projects. And with these core components, you can't even think about making, without these core components, you can't think about making your apple pie. So we've even got a recipe. So you will need an enthusiastic partnership working between departments. You definitely need a student engagement officer, and don't forget the training sessions to keep students upskilled. And you'll also need some kind of formal structure that enables students to organise themselves effectively and affect real change in their own organisation. Lastly, you need to trust them and trust in their ideas and allow them to develop their own projects, because they will impress you if you give them the space to develop. Now, all of these things that we've mentioned are counted towards their volunteering hours, and if they become a Sustainable Projects Officer as SEED, that role is here accredited. Okay? So I'll just now hand on to Sandra. Thanks, everyone.
So a little bit of background for me. Our environment team started in Estates about 9 years ago, probably the same time most of you did. Had something similar to look at carbon usage and generally save money. And we had our first event in 2007, which was a sort of big green week to launch the whole thing, and that's when we first started getting volunteers in to come and help out, and generally they were very informal networks then. But it grew from there. The more events we had, the more volunteers we got, and it just took off. Volunteering is a very important part of university life, and we found it's a great way to educate students around sustainability, particularly sustainable behaviours in their everyday life. Campaigns and events are great at raising awareness, as you all know, but they do need to be followed up. And we found that student volunteers often have a lot more creative ideas and energy than us, so we want to utilise that, and that's what this whole thing's about. So we had this very successful volunteering scheme that has been building up over years, but it was very time intensive from our perspective and also very prescriptive. We came up with the opportunities and they turned up at set time, did their hours, got logged for it, got a t-shirt, whatever, and went away. And we needed a way to do two things. One, to reduce the load on us because we didn't really have the resources to do that effectively, and also to increase both the opportunities and the responsibilities for the students. So we've just recruited our 8th graduate intern, which is a hugely important role for, in our team that acts as an intermediary between the university and the students. Like I said, we've done loads of events and loads of student volunteering. So you might say don't fix what's not broken. But not only is time a valuable commodity, but actually, are you doing what's best for the students by retaining control if you're being prescriptive over what volunteering they can do? And we also found in some of the, especially Go Green Week activities, that students perform best when we're not breathing down their necks. When we're standing there and they're coming and helping us on a stall, they just stand there. or do as they're told. Do you want me to go and hand some leaflets out now? When we left, for example, when we just went to get a cup of coffee, you come back and you find that they've come up with loads of stuff that they've done. Oh, they've taken the initiative and they've come up with stuff. So the more we stepped back, the more students stepped up to the plate and then went beyond. And so this got us thinking. Is this you? Is this me?
It's still you.
Sorry. So just a quick timeline on how we got to where we are now. Like I said, we started from the Big Green Week in 2007, launching our carbon reduction. We did an even bigger Big Green Week in 2010 that got thousands of volunteering hours, hundreds of volunteers involved. And that's what really set the volunteering scheme alight. 4 years later, the Environmental Action Society was created, and that was our way of handing back volunteering to the students, to let them take over. Dan's going to talk to you a lot more about that later. At Leicester, we have a Leicester Award programme, which is an extra credit programme. So we had a Leicester Award in Sustainability that we'd been running for a couple of years. We changed the format of that a couple of years ago to this Sustainable Development Programme. Environmental Action Society has gone from strength to strength, and then also in 2000, everything happened last year basically. The funding for our seed was approved, and we launched the SSWG. All of these things, all these acronyms will be explained over the course of the next half an hour. And you guys won the Campaigning Society of the Year, did you not?
We did.
Hurrah, not bad for a society that's not been going for very long.
Okay. So when we keep talking about students doing the hard work, and it may sound like they're getting a real deal, but Dan, maybe if you can give us a quick rundown of how the Environmental Action Society was set up to hopefully say that this wasn't the case. So can you tell us a little bit about it?
Of course, Sarah. So in my second year, I decided I wanted to do more volunteering at university. I went along to another project and went on the stall and got chatting to Sarah Roberts here, who found out that I was interested in the environment and poached me for her new society project. So I got involved kind of by accident. The first year was difficult. We were very much finding our feet, jumping through the loops that we needed to do to get the society set up. The second year was easier because we already had an established base of students who are our core membership who returned, and they'd seen what we've done in the past year. It's much better being a society. Earlier on, Sandra was talking about the environment team being prescriptive to students, and it felt like a tick boxing exercise with students turning up to the environment volunteering, which was, the volunteering itself was good, but they turned up, did what they were told and went home. As a society, we have a lot more control over what we do. We still do lots of volunteering, often in conjunction with the environment team, but it means that we have the power to let our students decide what we do. And we've also expanded into campaigns, so volunteering is half what we do and campaigning is the other half. So last year we've been working on the divestment campaign, and we've expanded into lots of new areas, including community outreach, working in local schools. So it's all been very exciting.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, it's been really exciting, but none of this could have happened without the support of the Students' Union, and we just wanted this slide to really hammer home this point. We've had feedback from previous EOUC workshops that shown some environment teams don't have much of a working relationship, but we've got a lot to offer each other. In the past, the SU has always come to us for support and guidance because we know we've helped them. So we've built up that confidence over the years. And we did this by looking at NUS survey data to find out what's important to students and using that to target our SU goals to see if we could hand them easy wins. And this works particularly well for SAB officers because they are elected from the student body and have yearly targets that they're trying to hit, which you may be able to help them with. So you've got to make the time to meet with your SU once every 2 to 3 months, maybe more frequently if need be, and make sure that your activities or engagement officers are there. It's not easy to build up a firm relationship as they change each year, but if you reach them when you're students, you can create a highly effective working partnership early on. This is where we get to the really meaty bit of our webinar, and it's been quite pertinent to all the information we've just been throwing at you. So we've talked about how important it is to have a good relationship with the SU, but sometimes even when you're best buddies, it isn't enough. So the EAS has been approved, the society had been approved, people were interested and the committee was starting to think about plans for next year. But then we were told that the news that the SAB environmental officer wouldn't be a position and instead it was going to be integrated. This might sound like a step forward, as we all want to embed sustainability, but our initial reaction was we're losing the only person who represents sustainability and instead paperclipping it onto someone else's to-do list. And that's what it felt like at the time. Having built up a good relationship with the SU manager, I was able to talk through these reasons why these changes were occurring, and we agreed that the position wasn't having enough of an impact. The anticipation was, I suppose, that we should expect it to recur in a couple of years' time as trends change and new students come to the university. However capable the new society was, though, it still felt like a step back, and the society wasn't the only environmentally related society. And I think at that time they just really needed some more support. So being new to the world of employment, I was quite impressed and excited by the concept of sitting in a real meeting and proposed the concept of a working group as an alternative to a SAB officer. So I saw it as an opportunity for students to gain key employability skills by actively taking part in a, air quotes, proper meeting with an agenda, minutes taken, and feedback from every single member in the group. This student sustainability working group turned out to be a blessing in disguise. And Zoe Thompson, who was our previous intern here and now works at NTU, shout out NTU, did
Stole her.
Yes, you did steal her. I did a fantastic job of supporting the group in its first year. So I'm now going to hand over to Alex, who is responsible for chairing the SSWG and is going to share his comments. I'll just click over the slide and pass him the mouse so he's got control.
Hello everyone, thank you very much for having me on this webinar on sustainability in the Student Sustainability Working Group. I couldn't be more proud and pleased to be chair for the SSWG in its first year, and I feel that it's done more than ever what we hoped. I'm now going to give you an idea about the journey we took and what we think we can continue to achieve in the future. Has everyone had a chance to read the few things that we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, it's covered.
Okay, my first response when Sarah came to talk about it was, great, this is fantastic. This is something that I could really see forming as part of direct feedback from students on the topic of sustainability. However, my concern at the time was how. I'd seen ideas at the university crash and burn before because there was no solid foundations. What I found was that actually there was a real sound structure because it was designed as a normal working group and that would be set up at the start of the academic year. There was a terms of reference readily laid out that included who would be attending, a code of conduct and a clear sense that senior management in the university would pay attention to what comes up. I was to be the chair and the environment intern from the environmental team was to take the minutes, and the rest of the students would be representatives from any society that the Students' Union runs. The core groups that got involved straight away were Environmental Action Society, Hungry for Change and the Young Greens, but much more would attend later on in the academic year. This got me very excited because it also helped me out personally due to the concept of engagement role with responsibility around the topic of sustainability. It was in my remit, and the environmental officer role wasn't taken very seriously, which was why part of the decision that was made to get rid of it took place. People tended just to come up with an idea or a vision, and some students would be into it more than others, but there was really no sort of feedback or structure behind which SAB officer came up with an idea and who then decided to follow them in doing it. Their aims wouldn't always coincide with the aims of the university, and so this sometimes created a massive clash, which would not result in any long-term change. It was a welcome sentiment from the environmental team to come and say to us, we can solve this issue for you by giving you the power to do it yourself.
Hooray!
Yay for us.
Yeah, go on.
So the next challenge was publicising it and getting the message out there. It was very easy to get in touch with groups and societies with direct interest, and that was not hard at all. Groups involved like geography took little more than an email to get them interested. We've put the SSWG on both our websites, although, if we're honest, the union could do with being a bit more prominent, but it was still a great start to get such a new group online.
Dare you try again?
My second concern was how we were going to reach out to other societies. We sent emails out to all groups, careers included it in their emails, and we ran it through social media as much as we could. In the end though, I think word of mouth and going around all tables at Freshers was really useful, as it got people aware and talking so that they could get in contact with us at any time. I was an official medium that they could use, and I think that interested people a lot more than if we were just another sort of society.
Dan, it's your face again.
Don't tell them.
The first few meetings were a little difficult to begin with. I was in a new position, and students were expectant from the very beginning that they were going to be led by someone. But this wasn't about me leading them. Even though I acted as a chair, I was in one of the most challenging positions because I had to turn around to them and say, the floor is yours. You have the power to make change, and myself and Zoe are here to enable you to do that. Subsequent meetings became more structured as people found a voice, and we had people turning up to say our society has implemented X because of Y, and it was all down to this group. They took particular pride because they had such a leading role in the seed fund, as they acted as a student panel that judged other students vying for money to support their project ideas. Seeing those projects then come to fruition was another demonstration of SSWG's success.
Bless you. Bless you. Immortalised sneeze.
It has been absolutely great to have such positive engagement and feedback from students, and at the last meeting we had a small handover style get-together where we made sure the previous society representatives bring their successor as an official passing on of responsibility. As you can see, we've made an incredible impact for our first year as we've been able to reach over 1,000 students from many different areas and societies. By ensuring there is someone to take your place, it solidifies the group and makes it harder to actively dismantle because you have a group of students who feel empowered to deliver change. We know we have a demographic we're currently missing, and we really want to tap into the sports societies if possible, introducing a potential competition system where societies can compete for something like green points. These are all the things Dan can look forward to as he takes over as chair of the SSWG, so I'm going to pass over to him now.
Passing over the mouse.
I'm very excited. Right, thank you, Alex. That was a good overview of the SSWG from a union perspective, but I'm going to talk about it now from a student angle, which was my experience of the past year. The first time I heard of the working group was from Sarah. Everything came from Sarah during the society, but Sarah emailed me the terms of reference, and I thought it sounded really good. The EAS was growing. We knew other societies like Hungry for Change and the Young Greens, but at the time, environmental societies were very much disjointed because there was nothing to link us together. There were small pockets of students doing good things, but nobody knew what other societies were doing. In the SSWG, everyone could talk about it. We suddenly had a lot more opportunities to work together and make good use of each other's resources. At first, this was the main benefit I saw, linking up environmental groups together. It wasn't until later that I realized that I could see the value of bringing other societies in. We've already seen the reach we've managed to achieve in our first year, but even if we had just a few, I don't think I would have minded because of the great ties and friendships we made. We helped raise money for the students to support group Nightline during Go Green Week by having a Zumbathon. Volunteering in the natural environment is a great way of relieving stress, so it's fantastic to link with them to promote healthy physical and mental living. In the same way, who'd have thought we'd made such great contacts with Chocoholics, our new society last year, but they came along to our meeting and we were able to promote fair trade chocolate through their society.
Is one society you want on their side?
Yes. People didn't really know what to expect from the first meeting, myself included, but I think we were just expecting a good networking event. I was lucky enough to know most of the environment team already, but I think it made a big difference to other people to get to meet people from the environment team and from other environmentally minded people on campus. I remember the first meeting was very positive. We all had our own agendas, of course, but it was inspiring to hear everyone talk about the work they've already done and what they want to do in the future, and then we could discuss it together and see how we could help going forward. Like Alex, I had some concerns. I was worried whether we'd be able to engage with others. However, because we had direct contact with the SAB officer, the environment team, and also had all our hours accredited, it made it that much more enticing to keep people coming back. Alex talked about solidifying the group. I really think the SSWG would be missed if it wasn't there, because it's the only formal capacity in which we get to meet on a regular basis. Some of the feedback we've given Sandra is that we might like to see her around a little more often, both in meetings and other events, because it actually gives students a lot of confidence to know that their time isn't being wasted. I wonder if students in other universities know who the head of their environment team is, or even get a chance to talk to them. When Sandra came along to a couple of the meetings last year in discussing projects, it made us feel special and valued, and that made us more likely to put the effort in. So it was a fantastic intermediary, and I think that her acting as a buffer for the environment team made Dr. Sandra Lee's visits more impressive to have an actual doctor come on down and meet the students. Oh, next slide. That's my face. I hope you're counting. We really enjoyed being given the opportunity to look after the seed fund, and some of the topics we've been incredibly proud of, but we're also just proud we made the group work. It's been useful not just for our society, but also for our personal development, and I think I've learned a lot about how big organisations work just from having this close contact. It was great to be able to go and pick up the Gold Green Impact Award, and I think next year is going to be even better. It's on my remit as SAB officer to look after the Green Impact, and I'm aiming for gold again this year, which is very exciting. The SSWG is the perfect place to invite other societies so we can make them feel listened to, and there's no reason why we can't get guest speakers from academics, to small businesses, to members of the community to have a guest seat. It just means more expertise, and getting people to know we're here is half the battle. Who's next?
Me.
There you go, Sandra.
Okay, so let's talk about the output and the effects of the SSWG a bit. From my point of view, it's a direct message from students to senior management. Their information feeds directly back to either Union Council or our Sustainability Steering Group. And importantly, from my point of view, it stops us making assumptions about what students want and instead allows them to speak for themselves. The other side is that we have access to a wide group of students that we can run our ideas past. Again, sometimes you do need to sense check, and students are very good at saying, no, that's really not cool, or otherwise. The seed fund that we've talked about, we've sort of talked around it a little bit more. I'm going to go into a bit more detail now. It's really created a common ground where we both can have input. Seed was a natural progression of our volunteering scheme. I had to make a case for it in our budget because, you know, money issues that we all have. But because it was to do with developing student experience and upskilling them, happily I managed to get a bit of cash to make I made the business case stick. It was important that we came up with a robust system that achieved several goals. Firstly, it had to satisfy our financial people. Secondly, it had to give students a real-life experience of what bidding for funding is like, because that happens in a lot of professions, not just academia. And thirdly, I wanted to instill confidence in both the funders, which was us and various other partners, and also the fundees, the people who've got the funding. They needed to understand that it was an important process and they needed to take it seriously. So we gave them 2 windows a year, the main one being at the start of the academic year, but we also opened it up again in spring because it's open to academic projects as well, and we didn't want to lose those people who'd already chosen their projects before the summer. The maximum is £500 per student, but actually some of the applications were a lot lower, and some students didn't even need any money at all for their project ideas. They just wanted the support, and we welcomed all of those. The money comes from wherever we can justify it. Last year we got some from the Hungry for Change SU project. We got anything that can have some kind of carbon and energy cost saving comes out of that budget, and the rest of it came from my budget. We don't pay them for their time. They're all volunteer projects unless it's a student, it's a dissertation project. We just pay for materials. So the process is, as we've said, very robust. Students have to register their interest before the first deadline, which is October. They can either come up with a project idea themselves or use one. We've got a list of projects that we would like done on our website. Often students start there, start of a 10, and then it goes off in a completely different direction. At this stage, all they have to do is provide a general concept. We don't expect the full detail. The next challenge is writing the project proposal. We provide a lot of support for this through drop-in sessions. We need to know if their expectations are realistic or achievable. Students, we tend to find, usually very, very ambitious, which is fantastic, but we remind them that they've also got a degree to do at the same time. We also put together a comprehensive handbook for students to fill out, and they had all the guidelines on what to do for each section. When I say we, I think I actually mean Zoe and Sarah did this. I didn't do any of it. And they're also encouraged to submit drafts for each bit. Like I said, we want to support them through every step of the process. Admittedly, they wouldn't get this in the real world, but we are trying to help them out here. The process and the handbook was refined as we went along using student feedback. Like I said, having this close contact with students means that we can learn from them all the time. So once they've written their project proposal, if it's successful, brilliant, then we ask them to provide a pitch. So they've got a great idea. We still want them to convince us that they can do it. So they might have the best idea in the world, but if we think you've got too many other commitments, or if we think you might be just a bit flaky and you're not going to do it, then we're going to need convincing. If it was unsuccessful, we're not that keen on it, then we're more than happy to let students rewrite it if it was a good idea but poorly executed. We have provided online training for time, project management, budget planning and things like that, and we did that in conjunction with careers. All the online training is available on our Blackboard site, so it's not just open to seed applicants, but anyone else on the Sustainable Development Programme, the Leicester Award, the SSWG, basically anything to do with any of our Apples programmes. So then, and this is the fun bit, the students take their proposals and they present them to the SSWG as a sort of elevator pitch. The SSWG make up the judging panel to decide whether the students presenting deserve the money or not. Now, I did have a steer on this, obviously, most of it was my money, but actually I handed it over to the students, the responsibility. I wanted them to have a sense of ownership, and it really made them sit up and take notice of where they were spending the money. They were tight with the money, probably a lot tighter than I would have been. They asked some really challenging questions. That I was really impressed, to be honest, at the panel with how thoroughly they listened to the applicants. They really thought through their projects, and they asked really difficult questions. And they took the responsibility very seriously. And like I said, I think they gave the students a much harder time than if it had been a staff panel. So the next step, once we allocated the money, was to take a step back and leave them to it to a certain extent. We don't set massive deadlines because projects, they set their own deadlines as realistic. The intern, again, was a really big help there. So Zoe worked really closely with each of the projects, the people doing the projects, because just for updates and to answer questions when they could. They had to provide regular updates to SSWG as well. Obviously, all those students had a vested interest. Just on administering the money issue, because we're probably all thinking about that, it was a challenge. We didn't just give each student the 500 quid and let them get on with it, because financial regulations wouldn't allow that, and I was uncomfortable with that. Instead, we set up a project cost code for the whole seed fund, and we bought the materials and stuff directly for the students. Occasionally, that did mean using our sort of company credit card, but you had to be flexible. The good thing that we found was that we didn't have to chase them. It was their project, and they took it really seriously. Obviously, we had a responsibility to look after whatever they produced, but they were managed and covered quite well in the proposal stage.
Okay, back to me. So some of the projects we're most proud of, you may have already heard mentioned, but it's difficult not to get excited when there's such a good project. And you really feel the energy reverberate around everyone in the room. So Caroline was first-year president and second-year treasurer of the Environmental Action Society, and her project was to encourage more women to use reusable sanitary products. So this included giving out about 15 moon cups for female students and staff at the university to trial, and a Facebook page was set up to collect their feedback and experiences. She used sewing machines the Society had purchased for Make and Mend events to run workshops on how to make your own cloth pads, and opened up a dialogue that crossed genders as she discussed the need to reduce the amount of waste we sent to landfill. She successfully introduced moon cups into the student union shop and worked with people of other religious beliefs so that the topic could be approached in a way that was really accessible. Dan, Alex, I don't know if you've got anything that you want to say at this point, because I mean you worked with Caroline a lot. I mean, what did you think of the project?
Well, it was also one of the aspects of policy that was going to come through Union Council, which is obviously something that has a democracy and politics side aspect to it as well. So, these students once they get through a project stage and they get really involved in certain things, it opens the door for them to sort of get involved with other stuff as well. So that's probably the bit for me more than anything, is that the project doesn't end, and the result at the end of it, of completing the project, is a fully engaged student who wants to do more with their time. Yeah.
It was very topical because the furor over the tax on menstruation products being discussed at the time, so it was a hot topic on campus. But also I liked it because it moved away the discourse around sustainability from recycling and energy usage, which is all well and good, but a bit of a tired message for students, and to come at them with something completely new like moon cups was very exciting and helped to inject some new enthusiasm into sustainability, I thought.
Yeah. I liked it because we would never have come up with it. It's not something that we would have come up with for students. And if we had, we would have just gone, oh, no, it's too difficult a topic. One thing I will say is Caroline is hopefully going to be our next intern. So just like Zoe and Sarah before, we have found that using the society and our volunteering scheme and that lot is a brilliant breeding ground. So
the whole team's been reassembled, minus Zoe.
Yes.
Captain Planet, something. So great. Another one. So the last theme was sort of variety of projects that you could get, so it kind of almost crossing boundaries. This project was exciting because Zora studied zoology, I think, and she wanted to do something that was really relevant for her future career. So she worked with us and another academic to install and monitor nest boxes at Blackthorn Manor, and she was able to improve the biodiversity of the site by planting trees, and what she effectively did was start a program that will undoubtedly feed back into our biodiversity audit and strategies in the future. I will actually be trying to write a biodiversity action plan, and I'll definitely be using Zora's work. Lots of the boxes were successful, and she's just sad that she couldn't find the time to do more of it before she had to leave. So really, really good work. The last project we wanted to mention was the organic jam from Hungry for Change, which has just turned into a society this year and needed a way of making themselves self-sustaining for the future as the funding pot shrank. I think Shawana's jam making concept was just what the group needed to kickstart their entrepreneurial spirit, and it enabled Shawana to come up with creative marketing ideas and the best way to sell the story of Hungry for Change to potential volunteers as well as their jam. Yeah, so very exciting. And so that was, so we've had 3 projects there. We've had one which was crossing boundaries, one which was enhancing employability, and another which was really entrepreneurial. So we're quite excited. Finally, we just wanted to include Anglia Ruskin, another shout out, who sent us some of their top tips for their student funds. So we recommend taking a look at their website, as well as some of the other universities who have a student fund mentioned below. Their fund, I think, operates in a slightly different way. I think as you put it to the public vote, which, as I think they've said, has put advantages and disadvantages, which is why I think they've said vet all proposals. Do please feel free to tell us more about that. So I suppose in the same way, if we clashed with the Student Sustainability Working Group, we could upset quite a powerful group. So it's best to keep things friendly. So I guess the last thing is to look at our top tips. I mean, those are some top tips that we've got up here as well. But I mean, if everyone else here, what do you think? Are we missing out any top tips? What else would you say? Sandra, I know you always say don't be tempted to micromanage and trust them.
That's my biggest, for me, that's the biggest take-home that I've learned over the years working with students. If you give them enough rope, they don't hang themselves, they run with it, they create. The more you trust the students, the more they will respect that you've done that and will come back with you tenfold. I've never, I have to say, I mean, we haven't had any of these seed projects so far fail. They've all been successful in one way, dancing to the crossing singers. But I think A, because of the support, and B, because and we won't give them, we don't give them money, we don't to the students that we don't think, but they wouldn't step up in the first place if they didn't want to take it seriously. So I've never been anything other than really, really impressed by the stuff that the students come up with.
I think prepared to be surprised, because we never expected to have chocoholics come along to sustainability workshop and discuss sustainability in their society, and so it's a really, really good platform to get societies that aren't traditionally engaged with sustainability issues to come along and talk about how they can change it. So we have some societies want to involve this year, some ideas about how they could change things. So hopefully we can expand it much more, especially sports societies, which Alex already mentioned.
Well, you've got Nightline as well that probably give out the most pens to students of any other society, and they're looking at making their pens sustainable for next academic year. So it's, you know, loads of different things. I guess one that I think is very, very important at the same time is point 3, which is recognise and communicate their achievements. We recognise, I think that's something we definitely do. The stuff that, you know, we as a university, you know, need to I think improve as a whole is our communication. We need to shout about what students are doing as well as giving them the opportunities to do it. And I think, you know, that's something that me and you, Dan, are sort of working on in the union to improve for the academic year about to come.
Definitely.
Students are also terrible at recognising their own achievements. So you have to tell them what skills they've earned, because otherwise they'll just go, yeah, it was good. I didn't know if I learned anything, but it was good during the process. And you just go, what? You learned time management, project management, budget management. And they're just going, oh, that's good.
So I did.
Yeah.
Yes, but that's something your career service should be working with students. As we seem to be going through these in reverse, I think when we sort of thinking outside the box, what I think this programme has done for students is we've mainstreamed sustainability. We've taken it away from the tree huggers and given it back to everybody else. And as I said, that's why the focus this year is going to be on sports societies. But as Dan said earlier, it's taking the discourse away from the standard, turn your lights off, recycle, and we'll be doing that the same as everyone, we'll be doing the same things in halls and all the rest of you are doing, those things are important, but they're not everything, they're not the whole story. And actually to get students to think themselves for where sustainability can fit into their lives and their hobbies and their interests, and for them to problem solve, it does open up the conversation a lot more, and it makes it more inclusive. This is not just for hippies.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, anyone? And did you count all the Dan pictures?
I forgot to count. I don't know the answer.
You've got to count yourself.
I think I know. Yeah, I think I know. But has anyone got any puns or acronyms? Anything that they think they're proud of? Do feel free to tell us.
It can't be apples anywhere. We were pleased with that. It was a late night train.
Oh, Zoe says hi.
Yeah, did you not see that?
We just noticed.
Okay, if anyone has got any questions, if you want to just click on the mute button to the right of your name, and then you can ask them that way. Or if you haven't got a microphone, feel free to type into the box if you have got any questions. I'll just give everyone a moment now.
That was fun.
That was good.
mortified at my sneeze.
It's okay.
Hi there.
Hi.
It's Glenn here from the University of Manchester. I've got a quick question, which is, I was just, for the student engagement officer, is that role part of the your like environmental sustainability team as like a fixed term position?
It's fixed term, but it was part of the students' union. So going back to that discussion about sort of the partnership between the environmental team and the students' union. The role for this academic year coming has been sort of liquidised, and the whole concept of environment and sustainability policy and direction has been passed over to Dan in the new activities role. So it is his responsibility, and we'll be chairing the SSWG next year.
And we understand that SAB roles vary from institution to institution, but you'll find someone. There'll be a role somewhere. And if you haven't got one this year, you can lobby them now to get it in for next year's. And it's not about you lobbying; it's just finding a couple of students who want to lobby, and that's what we use. We use our students to lobby each other.
I was going to say, that sounds weird, you lobbying us. Like.
Well, yes, I suppose it does. Yeah, we're lobbying you to empower you in order to, but you know, students are the best change makers in the whole institution. So what we're doing is helping them organise. I mean, student union, unions are all about organising, and that's how you take power. That's what unionising is, and all we're doing is giving them a platform to do that.
Yeah, no, I think it's we've got the incoming, so it's the campaigns and citizenship officer at our university from the SAB side who has some kind of well, the majority of the environmental remit within the exec team on the SU, and she seems really keen this year. So hopefully we can work more closely than we've done sort of in the last academic year.
Is that Sorika?
Yes, yeah, it is, yeah.
Oh, I met her at Lead and Change, and we actually grew up together at school in Somerset. So.
Oh, wow. Sorika was my flatmate at Lead and Change as well.
Don't embarrass her on the webinar.
They all know each other. And actually, that's true. The SU network is probably quite important. So we should get you guys campaigning to other SUs.
Well, I can get in touch very easily with Sorika, so.
Well, you don't need to, apparently. She's already on it.
Lens on it.
Yeah. No, we've got some meetings booked in, which is good. It was just, I think it's just that focus, isn't it? Of there's so many campaigns to choose from, but I think she's trying to divide her time, and hopefully there's the kind of the ES side of things is going to get a look in, which is obviously fantastic from our perspective.
I mean, I've always taken it the same approach as when I'm dealing with senior managers. Give them quick wins. And hopefully that's what this kind of format is. It's giving them a low-budget, quick win that they can just run with and get successes from. And especially with the SAB officers, they're here for such a short amount of time, and really their whole job has to be done in the first term anyway. It's insane. So any quick wins that you can give them, they will appreciate.
Yeah. Just a technical point on this. Do we get the presentation? Can we get a copy of that afterwards?
Yeah, I'm going to upload it to the CAUC site. So what I'll do is I'll send it a link to it round, and it will have the podcast from today on there as well. So you'll get that this afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Has anyone else got any questions, or are we all done?
Right. I think that was it, yeah. Yeah,
okay, brilliant. There's nothing else coming through. So, I mean, Sarah, do you mind, in the email I send round to everyone, are you happy for me to pop your email address on there so that if anyone does think of anything following on from the webinar, they can get in touch with you directly? Is that okay?
That's absolutely fine.
Brilliant.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, that's what I'll do then. Okay, so let's wrap up now then. Thanks everyone for joining us, and thank you especially to Sarah, Sandra, Alex and Daniel for sharing their insight today. As I say, I'll send out a link to the resources later on. And thanks again for joining us.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.